G'day guys, it is Ben here from Hunt the Night, and we are going to do another little product review today. What we're reviewing today is this little HIKMicro Thunder TH35, and I took this out in the field the other night and had a bit of a play with it. And I'm going to take you through my thoughts. Now guys, I'm not going to put this into my bag for 4 weeks and that type of thing. I've got a pretty good idea of what I look for in a scope and what fits for people and you know, what it's going to be useful for. The other thing I'm not going to really do, guys, is compare it. The only comparing that I'm going to do is you're going to see a little bit of footage seen of a fox between my RL42 and this scope here. I took them both out in the field for at the same time. And the reason that I'm not going to compare it is you can't. You know, this scope is this scope. This scope isn't a Trail 2, it isn't a Thermion, it isn't a Ricoh RH50 or an RL42. This is a Thunder TH35, okay? It's a 35mm objective lens, it's a 384 by 288 sensor, it's a 2:16 magnification lens. So the only thing you really can compare it to is other 2:16 magnification 388 products. You know, I mean, you can compare it to a 640 if you want, but you're talking about a totally different operating experience and a totally different user experience as well. So I never look at it as one scope's better than the other or this scope's better than that scope, because we all shoot differently. We all shoot different things. We've all got different budgets. So what I want to really point out is what this scope is good at and what it's not good at. And then it's up to, and then what I see you can use it for. And then it's up for you guys to determine whether this is the right scope for you. Firstly, let's have a quick chat. Now, if you would have seen my mounting video, you would have seen that I spoke about these mounts and I don't mind them. Now, I had these mounted on my CZ 223, no suppressor on it. I put a bunch of rounds through it. There's no marks on the recoil lug. I had these torqued in as well, these bolts torqued into position, so I'm really happy with that. Let's talk about battery. This battery housing is pretty funky. What I mean by funky is, I don't know if I like it or if I don't. This plus and minus took me a second to figure out what it was. That's just the direction of, you know, how you insert the batteries. It's not any part of your zooming. It's not, these are non-functional, so it's a bit decorative. But to put these batteries in and close it, you really actually got to, it's a two-handed operation. You really got to push down there pretty hard and get that locked into place. Now I'm using rechargeable 3.7 volts in this, and it works fine. It's actually pretty cool. If you put non-rechargeable, put the 3 volters in, it'll actually tell you, and it'll get you to change your battery configuration in the actual unit. So it may have something to do a little bit with conservation of power and things like that as well. I'm not entirely sure. USB plug, I downloaded footage today from this. I haven't tried this with the app yet. I will try it with the app and run a review on the app. But I downloaded some footage just using the USB. Nothing on the other side. Lens cap, as you would, focus ring, and our and also our Doppler ring is on here as well. Now, it's got a lot of buttons. My first thing I don't like is so many buttons, okay? I'll tell you why. I constantly find myself looking at this. The button system is pretty cool, but I wish they had it a different way. I prefer my zoom here and I prefer my recording here, because most of the scopes in the industry, it's that way around. I kept trying to zoom and taking a photo, telling JPEG saved. I like this. This is my little sensor nuking, which is pretty cool. I like just having that there rather than having to tap the power button. And this one here, I can change my color palettes right away as well. So I don't mind the number of buttons. It's you know, my ATN had a lot of buttons, but I don't like the configuration. Okay, it takes a little bit of getting used to. And when you have just one of these, it'll be okay. But I'm switching between, you know, several different brands all the time. I had this and my RL42 side by side in the field. So for me, it's just a little bit confusing. I just had to keep looking at it. The zooming is pretty cool. The zooming, and you'll see it in the footage that's rolling, it's a smooth zoom. So it actually looks like it's, you know, almost like an optical zoom. It's digital, but it's pretty cool. you know, yeah, the menu system's pretty well laid out. It's not, I wouldn't say it's the most intuitive in terms of some of the language it uses, but that's probably just because these are, you know, they're an offshore manufactured device in a non-English speaking country. I can get quite politically correct when I want to. And maybe, you know, but that's something that can be addressed with firmware. Now, I haven't updated this to the latest firmware. There isn't a firmware update for this, which is more got to do with the zeroing when you use this as a clip-on, and I'll do a proper review on that when I get the chance. But today we're just talking about it running as a scope. So let's get back to what this is. It's a 2X 384. Let's start with that, because that's also it's hamstring, but it's also it's positive. So like all 384s, when you start with a low base magnification and start to zooming in, and you'll see it in the image quality throughout this, it really loses that image quality pretty quick. But in base magnification, this thing isn't too bad. You'll see a fox running around near a bulldozer. That bulldozer is about 220, I think, meters away, and the fox is about 180 meters, 160 meters, I think, when I missed the shot on it. So it's pretty cool. You know, you'll see a bunch of cows walking around. Those cows are over 300 meters away, and there's a fox out near there, which is about, you know, about 350 odd meters away as well. Base magnification, it doesn't do a bad job. The image is pretty crisp, but you know, is this the scope you're going to take when you want to shoot a fox 300 meters? Probably not for me. It just doesn't have enough clear magnification. And that's where its hamstring is. But if I'm shooting rabbits, and at the moment I've got an MS42, a Nighttech on my 22, which I'm shooting rabbits with, and I'll do a review on that because I think it's one of the most misunderstood and brilliant little scopes on the market. But this would fit into that category. You know, that 0 to 150 meters, this is a fantastic little scope. And for its money, at the moment, these will go up on July 1, but at the moment, this is a $3,000 scope. It's pretty bloody good for what it does. The color palettes, yeah, they aren't real flash hot. The Fusion one's pretty funky. I reckon if you'd, you know, had a little bit of LSD, not that I've ever had LSD, but I'm just imagining if you did, and you use that Fusion palette, you could have a pretty cool night out. Don't do it with a loaded rifle though, just use it as a monocular. I'm not advocating the use of drugs either. That was just a joke. But it's, you know, it's pretty cool. In white hot and black hot, it works pretty well. It's got this little heat detection mode, and you'll see it's got this little green thing that bounces all over the place. Now, if you're familiar with the Guide IRs or the Burris, which is a Guide IR rebadged unit, you know, that's got the heat detection mode as well. Didn't really work too well for me. Picked up the car engine okay, but, you know, is it a great feature? I don't know. I don't think I'd ever use it. I think it just does my head in and gets in the way. You know, how does it tell the difference between a rock and a fox, or a wombat and a rock? You know, not that you shoot wombats, but you know what I mean? Like, if something's holding heat, it's going to start bouncing off it. I'd have to play around with a little bit more about that just to know if it's really useful or not. But my first impressions are to be gimmicky. It's not like highlight mode on the infrarays that I actually find quite functional, more from a monocular point of view. But look, for its money, and you'll see the footage, I think it's really cool. The thing I don't like about it, and this is a big one, okay, is I don't like the way it zeroes. Traditionally speaking, my experience with digital scopes is when you zero a scope and you put it into zero mode, you have two reticles, okay? You have the reticle you're aiming, and then you move your other reticle to your point of impact, and the one where it's aiming stays where it is, and the point of impact one, you know, goes on the point of impact, and then it goes, ta-da, we're zeroed. This doesn't have that. This has only got the one reticle, so you really got to do it from a bench, so to speak, and a sled, and have it locked into position, have it aiming at your target, and then moving the reticle to your point of impact, and then you're going to be checking it again and refining it. I really, and again, it's something they can probably fix in firmware. But that for me is a big missing piece that makes it just that bit harder to zero, and especially if you haven't done this before, because you're going to move that reticle around, and if you're not locked into a sled, you're gonna move the rifle, and all of a sudden you're going to shoot it again and go, I'm not zeroed, why not? So I can see getting a few support calls on trying to zero this. You know, it's probably then one of those instances where you really want to start at 25 meters and then go to 50 and then to 100, because I think you're going to struggle without that point of reference. There's no freezing of the image or anything like that like there is in the pulsars and in the Ricos as well. You know, so that's probably my biggest criticism. But you know, my eyes on this, you know, have really changed over, you know, playing with a whole bunch of different brands, and it's not what is the best. You can't look at it like that. You got to look at it as, with my budget, will this work for me? You know, if you want to shoot on average 150 meters, then don't buy this scope, okay? Because when you want to zoom into that 250 meters, I think you're going to struggle with the picture quality. But if all you want to do is shoot 150 meters and you want to shoot specifically things like rabbits at 30 meters, this is a fantastic little scope to do it. You do not need to buy, you know, the Pulsar Trails, an $8,500 scope, 2 magnification. You know, Thermion's a bit cheaper, say Thermion 7.5, whatever it is, with a 2 magnification 640. You don't need to do it. This is going to do the job just fine. For $3,000, I reckon this is absolutely bang on. Now, when it goes up in price on July 1, and we don't know what that new retail price is going to be, will it still be the best scope in its class in terms of, you know, being a 2x 384 $3,000 scope? No, because it will no longer be a $3,000 scope. I think this scope's going to struggle if it gets up to $4,000, because then you get things like the Nighttech MS42, which is a great scope. It's got the image quality. It's got the you know, it's a great little scope. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles, but objective, you know, it's a great little scope. But then, you know, just above that at 4,400, you got the Ricoh, you know, RL42. And again, that's not the scope you're going to be using if you're going to be shooting rabbits at 30 meters because of the base magnification. So where this scope goes in terms of its, you know, how great it is from a cost point of view, I don't know. But at the moment, it is an absolute bargain. I reckon anyway. So there it is, guys. There are my thoughts on the Thunder. Great little scope for its money. Yeah, but, you know, just don't expect it to be the scope that's going to get you out to 300-400 meters, you know, but apart from that, yeah, buy one from me, preferably. No, guys, get your hands on one the best way you can. And yeah, look, I'll catch you on the next one when I've put this one through as a monocular. Thanks, guys, and have a great day.